Smiley raises an interesting hypothetical here. He says, boys, if LSU were to obviously win this game and then win the SC championship, would they go to the playoff? And I was on the verge of saying, well, of course, SC champion will go to the playoff. Like, why wouldn't they? But 2 losses, it'd be, especially this year. I mean, we'll have to see how it all breaks out. It always breaks out with teams losing more than you think they're going to when you just look at the schedule. So, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but maybe some interesting food for thought going forward.
Yeah, I mean, 73 things, not really 73, but have to happen for that to happen. And then you get into a situation, say LSU won out, got to Atlanta, and say Tennessee won out and they got to Atlanta and LSU was able to beat Tennessee, say it was a close game. Tennessee only has 1 loss. LSU would have 2. Tennessee would have a victory over LSU.
Yeah.
Right? So even as an SEC champion.
Ooh, something wonderfully old school about an SEC champion not going to the playoff. I mean, it kind of feels like before the SEC had just established complete dominance over college football.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I shouldn't get distracted with that because to do that, to win the West, you must first beat Alabama in Death Valley this weekend. Boys, can I get a DraftKings Sportsbook spread check on this game? I just want to see what it opened up as for the purposes of this conversation because a lot of people have asked me, over the weekend, how we feeling. And I have a very clear feel about where my mindset is at the onset of all of this. And it is that I am not going to be scared, right? If you're scared, get a dog, go to church.
13.5.
Okay, 13.5. I'm not going to be scared. I am going to fully open myself up to this game. Last year, I did not open myself up to it at all. I never even allowed the possibility of winning to enter my brain. I remember Rivers talks about this. Like, even when LSU was close and throwing to the end zone to potentially win the game, it did not feel like it to me. And quite frankly, that was an awful experience. An experience born of being hurt too many times, where you become a bit jaded and you put up that wall. But this is a new year, new me, and there's no room for that cynicism. So I'm going to give myself over to this, okay? I'm going to fully believe that LSU is going to win this Saturday, and I'm going to operate in that manner. I don't care how close it is, whatever. We are going to ride or die. The only thing I will say is I think that's the correct mindset, Jake, but we do have to acknowledge the reality of the situation, which is that they are opening up as a 13.5-point favorite, okay? And I just say that because you have to realize no matter how confident you're being, because everybody's talking themselves into things, which I get, right? Like, Alabama's been bad on the road.
Yeah.
You're a team that's vastly improving. Like all of these are all true, but you still are a 13.5-point dog. So, don't diminish this if you somehow do pull it off, because you are punching up. And you're not just punching up a little bit, like you are punching up pretty significantly here. You're a 13.5-point favorite at home at night. That's what they tell you about how good Vegas still thinks Alabama is. Alabama is still, despite the fact that they lose the game, they won't make it, they are still minus odds to make the SEC championship. Okay? So this is still a Nick Saban dragon that you are trying to slay, even if it is a bit smaller than dragons of the past.
Yeah, it is. And it's a very unique game because of all the reasons you said. Like last year, the question was, will LSU show up and fight?
Yeah.
Like that's what kind of conversation. I remember having a conversation with the broadcast team last year right before the game on the sideline, looking around like, hey, just like tell me LSU's going to like fight and just like be in this game because, LSU's supposed to be in games like this. They're not supposed to lay down. And they did. And they had every opportunity to win that game. Well, a lot of that same Alabama team is this team. Now, LSU's a much better team, more complete team right now, certainly than they were when they went to Tuscaloosa last year. So it feels much better than it did a year ago. But I agree, like you have to take a look at it. And Vegas sees this as a 2-touchdown game. And so now you have to, okay, how can we attack Alabama? What are some things that they have trouble with? And you start getting into some X's and O's. How can we, for 2 years in a row, dominate the Bama offense? Because make no mistake about it, they dominated Alabama last year.
They did. Now,
certainly compared to what they were doing.
What concerns me slightly about that, Jake, is LSU had a bit of a weird advantage in that regard last year, in that they just finally did all the things defensively they had not put on film up to that point, right? So, like, I'm sure Matt House is going to have something cooked up, but it's not going to be the wholesale change where pre-Alabama, LSU's maybe running the most predictable defense of all time, not even running a single cover zero blitz on the entire year, like doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then they come out the Alabama game, and they're kind of throwing the kitchen sink at them, right? So you had a little bit of like, oh, crap, like what? Like confusion there. That's not going to be the case this year. And also,
I mean, 16 total first downs last year. Only gave up 308 total yards. You gave up 6 rushing yards to Alabama.
Yeah, that's insane.
In 26 carries, Alabama had 0.2 rushing yards.
And that makes
with a back
no
that's
sense.
Now starting for the Commanders in the NFL.
That makes no sense. That is, and that was a middle of a Heisman Trophy run for Bryce Young. So obviously it'll be hard pressed to repeat that, but at the same time, the Alabama offense has been stilting at times, right? Texas probably being the obvious example. And again, they have been bad on the road in some of these bigger games. But it's what I always get a bit concerned about, Jake, is that we talked to Ryan Fowler on Friday, and the bottom line is that when Alabama looks at their schedule, this is still the game in which they will be most locked in. They still have the bye week before. Mm-hmm. Even last year was maybe the year where they were overlooking LSU because, what was LSU last year. And even then there's a lesson to be learned because they almost got. And so I don't think you're going to have the advantage this year of an overconfident Alabama coming in. I think this is an Alabama team that's been humbled. It knows it has no margin of error left, and it is going to be locked in, trying to beat you.
Yeah, I mean, some of that plays. I mean, I'm sure they were locked in against Texas A&M because of all the offseason stuff as well. And Texas A&M had the same situation that LSU had last year.
Yeah.
To throw it in the end zone with a chance to win. I think it's a major positive for LSU that this game's at home. I think it's real. I mean, it's going to be as loud as it's been in a very, very long time. I would say going back to probably 2019 because Ole Miss was really good. It was a great atmosphere. This game being at home, you don't have to travel. You've had a bye week, and also let's see these coaches after a bye week as well.
Oh, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? So far, Matt House has been fantastic and scheming up some really good stuff, and certainly the adjustments. But Denbrock's now going to have his opportunity after 2 weeks of showing off. You're asking for more. Well, you got it in those 2 weeks. And now you're going to get a coaching staff. Let's see what they can do with a couple of extra days to prepare.
T-Bob Ray Bear says, probably shouldn't get down 2 scores to start this game. Let's change that strategy, fellas.
It's worked. It's been great 3 times.
It's a good point. Ideally,
but
you don't go down 17-7 or something against Alabama.
13-0.
Yeah, that would be great if they could avoid that.
Start fast.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, look, we're going to continue to break this thing down all week. Yeah, go ahead.
We are, and we don't need to stop. But I was sitting here thinking, what are some things that Alabama struggle with? Bryce Young has gotten hit this year. He's taken some shots.
Yes.
Right? So LSU does have some guys, certainly, that can get after the quarterback. And what do we talk about? We talk about Harold Perkins a lot here, and just like every show. And it's okay, how do you get him on the field more? Well, he's a freshman. Also, having a bye week, having 4 extra practices, that can get a freshman not maybe up to speed like a vet, but you can put something special in for him. You can concentrate on something for him, a bigger package for him because you do have some extra time to practice.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's a great point. See what these new coordinators can cook up, and Brian Kelly, ahead of their first 2-week Alabama preparatory period.